Thank you for joining me for Volume 2 of my Daedric lore series. Today we will cover a personal favorite I hope you enjoy. Clavicus vile and Barbus, the smile and wagging tail beneath the mask. This is the complete mytho-historical biography of Clavicus Vile, one of the 17 Daedric princes of Oblivion in the Elder Scrolls universe. Known as the Prince of Bargains, the trickster god of deals, and the keeper of the mask, Clavicus Vile's legacy spans across all known eras of Tamriel, from ancient cult worship and infamous pacts to appearances in mortal realms and manipulation of fates. Every recorded interaction, canonical dialogue, book entry, and legend associated with Clavicus Vile is explored herein. The account is written in the style of a third-era imperial scholar, chronicling the enduring influence of Vile throughout Tamrielic history. Chapter 1. Of Masques and Motives, the Essence of Clavicus Vile. Clavicus Vile is often described as one of the most personable Daedra, smiling and genteel, yet dangerously duplicitous. His defining domain is the art of the bargain, an exchange where the mortal always receives exactly what they asked for, but rarely what they truly desired. He is most often depicted as a well-dressed man with horns curving back from his forehead, and his smirk implies that he knows something you don't. His very name conjures caution and curiosity. Barbus, his shape-shifting hound, represents an odd foil, loyal yet troublesome, and often the voice of reason. Some scholars argue that Barbus is a splinter of Vile's own personality, while others claim he is a servant, cursed with omniscient clarity. Chapter 2. The Fields of Regret, His Realm Beyond the Veil. Among the myriad planes that comprise the infinite skein of Oblivion, few realms are as beguiling or as morally didactic as the Fields of Regret, the sovereign domain of Clavicus Vile. Though it bears none of the brutal torment of Mehrunes Dagon's Deadlands nor the whimsical madness of Sheogorath's Isles, it is perhaps the most dangerous of all, precisely because it appears benign. Herein lies the paradox of Vile's dominion, a paradise not of peace, but of postponed damnation. The Fields, by all scholarly consensus and first-hand accounts as relayed in the Doors of Oblivion, are a vision of pastoral splendor. Golden plains roll endlessly beneath a burnt-orange sky locked in perpetual twilight. Trees heavy with impossible fruits lean over mirror-surfaced lakes, though the reflections therein show not the self but the seeker's deepest desire. Pavilions of mortal architecture, Cyrodiilic villas, Dunmeri towers, Nordic halls, rise from the earth, fabricated from memory and regret. It is a land shaped not by the whim of its master alone, but by the moral failures of its guests. The denizens of this realm are varied, yet uniformly tragic. Foremost are the souls of mortals who have entered into pact with Clavicus Vile, deal-makers whose desires, granted in precise and literal terms, have ultimately destroyed them. These souls, it is believed, are not tormented through fire or blade, but through reflection. They relive their pivotal decision endlessly, each time hoping for a better outcome that never comes. Scholars of the Mages Guild hypothesize that time within the Fields flows in non-linear eddies, wherein past and present collapse into perpetual consequence. Other figures populate this realm as well, echoes of regret, ghost-like phantasms formed from the failed ambitions of mortals, drift endlessly among the grasses. Barbus, ever Vile's companion, is said to appear here intermittently, serving as both guide and tormentor, his dialogue laced with bitter truth. The rare Dremora who serve Vile in this space are not armored brutes, but noble-like counselors and barristers, well-versed in Daedric contract law. Though permanent portals to the Fields are not known to exist on Nirn, certain rituals and artifacts, such as the Masque of Clavicus Vile, may provide glimpses into the realm. Dream visions, summoning misfires, and soul-binding mishaps are commonly cited in academic case studies as entry points. Culturally, the realm has taken on many forms in Tamrielic myth. Bretons speak of the Glade of Golden Lies. Dunmeri Apocrypha warn of a Garden of Poisoned Truths. Nibonese parables liken it to the illusions cast by a snake's hypnotic stare. Orcish oral tales describe it as a battlefield littered with frozen screams, heroes cursed mid-oath for having wished too fervently. In all interpretations, one element remains consistent. The Fields of Regret is where one faces the consequences of their ambition. Theologically, the Fields occupy a unique space among the Daedric realms. It borders the dominions of Mephala and Sanguine, suggesting thematic synergy, secrecy, indulgence, and manipulation. Within the metaphysical structure of Oblivion, it is a realm of permission, not of command. Clavicus Vile does not impose regret, he allows it to bloom. As the Imperial Geographic Society concludes in its cartographic memoirs, to gaze upon the fields of regret is to understand the truest power of Clavicus Vile, not in his ability to curse, but in his mastery of allowing mortals to curse themselves. Chapter 4. Clavicus in the Mortal Plane. Canonical Appearances and Interactions. The Elder Scrolls II, Daggerfall. Clavicus appears at his shrine, requesting the retrieval of a soul gem and rewarding the player with the Masque. The Elder Scrolls III, Morrowind. Though not directly encountered, books and cults reference his influence. The Elder Scrolls IV, Oblivion. In the quest, a Daedra's best friend, the hero is tasked with retrieving the Umbra sword. Barbas, disguised as a statue, urges the hero to defy Vile's will. The player chooses either to return Umbra and receive the Masque or keep the sword. The Elder Scrolls V. Skyrim. In a quest also titled A Daedra's Best Friend, Barbas seeks the Dragonborn's help to reunite with Vile. The player may decide to reunite them, gaining the Masque, or betray Barbas to gain the Rueful Axe. Vile's mocking tone and commentary on mortals reveal his disdain for them. The Elder Scrolls Online. Vile appears in multiple storylines, including the Clockwork City expansion, where he allies with Mephala and Nocturnal. Lore books scattered throughout Tamriel reference his past deals and cults. Chapter 5. Texts and Tomes, Writings that Chronicle the Prince. Invocation of Azura contains veiled mentions of rival Daedric powers and Vile's domain. 2920, the last year of the First Era. Chronicles how Clavicus Vile manipulated Emperor Rieman's court, giving a noble beauty and causing a civil rift. The Book of Daedra offers a comparative analysis of Daedric princes, painting Vile as vain and deceitful. The Doors of Oblivion describes first-hand encounters with Vile's realm, depicting it as both charming and sinister. Lore books in the Elder Scrolls Online include The Price of Ambition and Of Bargains and Blades, telling stories of mortals who struck pacts with the prince. Chapter 6. The Cult of the Bargain, Worship and Temples. Temples dedicated to Clavicus Vile are rare but not unknown. Worshippers include those who seek influence, beauty, or a second chance at fate. Shrines often feature his smiling bust with horns, and summoning rituals require precise wording, as Vile is known to exploit any ambiguity. Notably, the shrine in TES4. Oblivion is located in the Geralt Mountains and attracts desperate individuals. In Skyrim, his shrine lies hidden in Hemar's Shame, protected by vampires and devoted fanatics. Chapter 7. Barbas, the Loyal Hound and the Conscience. Barbas is more than a mere Daedric companion. He is a paradox incarnate, a being who both serves and challenges his master, Clavicus Vile. Manifesting most often as a large talking hound, Barbas can also assume a humanoid or spectral form when necessary. His loyalty is unquestionable, but his mannerisms and interventions often blur the line between servitude and satire. Origins and nature. The precise origin of Barbas remains as mysterious as that of most Daedric entities. Some theorists suggest that Barbas is a mere projection of Clavicus Vile, a living aspect of the prince's mind, created to act as his conscience or foil. Others argue that Barbas is a distinct being who entered into eternal service through a forgotten pact. Regardless of his genesis, Barbas acts with a degree of independence rarely seen among Daedric minions. In the Book of Daedra, Barbas is barely mentioned, suggesting that his significance may be a relatively recent development or carefully obscured. Yet, in the centuries of accumulated lore, he has become a fixture of Vile's appearances, a constant companion whose wit and insight often reveal more than Vile would like. Role in Daedric pacts and mortal affairs. Barbas's most visible role is that of intermediary. In both the Elder Scrolls IV, Oblivion, and the Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim, Barbas plays a direct role in quests involving mortals and his master. In Skyrim, he actively seeks out the Dragonborn to help him resolve a disagreement with Vile, underscoring his unique capacity for autonomous action. In both quests, titled A Daedra's Best Friend, Barbas often presents a more ethically reasoned stance than Vile himself, urging mortals to consider the cost of their bargains. He is humorous, sarcastic, and unexpectedly compassionate. Indeed, players who choose to side with Barbas in Skyrim's narrative path arguably make the more morally sound choice. Theological interpretations. Barbas' duality poses difficult questions for theologians and daedrologists alike. If he is an aspect of Clavicus Vile, then his existence is a profound metaphysical commentary. Vile, the Prince of Bargains, may possess within himself a voice of empathy or restraint. This would suggest that the act of bargaining is not merely trickery, but a test of judgment. On the other hand, if Barbas is a separate being, his continued companionship, despite Vile's frequent frustration with him, implies a deeper need. Perhaps Barbas is Vile's insurance, a safeguard against excess, a demon bound to balance the consequences of his master's deals. Mythic and cultural reflections. In some Breton folklore, Barbas is referred to as the shadow of the bargain, and appears in tales as a guide who warns heroes against deception. In one Glenumbra tale, a knight is visited by a talking dog who prevents him from accepting a cursed sword, clearly inspired by Barbas. Among the Reach folk, Barbas is seen as a tutelary spirit who protects those who speak plainly and reject false promises. Conversely, in certain Nibonese texts, he is demonized as a trickster who sows doubt between allies. These divergent interpretations reflect the ambiguity inherent in Barbas's nature. The rift with Clavicus Vile. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of Barbas is his occasional rebellion. In Skyrim, the narrative centers on a schism between Barbas and Vile, a rare event among Daedric partnerships. Barbas's willingness to defy his master in defense of a higher principle or simply annoyance adds depth to their relationship. When reunited, Vile calls Barbas a pain in the rump, but ultimately restores him. This speaks to a complicated affection, one rooted less in dominance and more in codependence. It is perhaps the only recorded instance of a Daedric prince accepting insubordination with wry amusement. Conclusion. Barbas remains an enigma. Servant and conscience, clown and confidant, guardian and gadfly. Whether he is Vile's better nature or merely a deeply loyal soul playing the long game, Barbas complicates the narrative of Daedric evil. His presence invites mortals to look beyond the mask, to question not only the deal they are offered, but the nature of the one who offers it. As the Altmeri scholar Vaelian of Skywatch once observed, Barbas barks not to warn you of danger, but to make sure you heard it coming. Chapter 8. Tales of the Bargained and Bound. Mythic Interventions. Clavicus Vile is central to many Tamrielic myths. A young noblewoman, Avalea, wished for eternal beauty. Vile granted her request, but she was executed within 3 days by jealous courtiers. Her tale is the origin of the Masque. The Nibonese merchant Arctur sought unending fortune. His gold turned to ash when he withheld payment on his debt to Vile. A Reach folk chieftain traded his son's soul for military victory. He won the battle but lost his mind to nightmares of betrayal. Each story reinforces the warning, beware the bargain too easily made. Chapter 9. Clavicus and the Tribunal. Interprince politics, honor-bound philosophies, and Azura's foresight. The interactions between Clavicus Vile and the self-proclaimed tribunal gods, Vivec, Almalexia, and Sothasil, are as complex as they are obscure, hidden behind layers of myth, propaganda, and suppressed heresy. Though no direct confrontation between Clavicus Vile and the tribunal exists in plain record, indirect accounts and coded texts, particularly in the writings of dissident priests and Telvanni apocrypha, suggest a quiet tension between the Daedric Prince of Bargains and the mortal god-kings of Morrowind. The Dunmeri view of Vile. Traditionally, the Dunmer revere the good Daedra, Azura, Mephala, and Boethia, while reviling others like Clavicus Vile as the bad Daedra. Yet Vile's influence still persisted in Morrowind, particularly among House Telvanni, whose members prized autonomy, manipulation, and long-life bargains. It is known that some Telvanni mages entered into compacts with Vile in secret, leveraging his pacts to extend their already considerable lifespans or acquire forbidden knowledge. The Tribunal's political doctrine. The Tribunal Temple established religious orthodoxy that elevated themselves as divine and painted Daedric princes, particularly those associated with deception and desire, as dangerous and antithetical to Dunmeri harmony. Vile, whose dominion undermines self-sacrifice and promotes vanity, was seen as a direct ideological threat. In the 36 Lessons of Vivec, though not named outright, certain sermons speak of a masked liar who bartered hearts for silk and words, a possible allegory for Clavicus. Vivec, ever cryptic, may have framed his own divinity in opposition to such deceptive bargains. Sothasil and Daedric containment. Of particular note is Sothasill's scholarly obsession with understanding and perhaps controlling the Daedra. His clockwork city was designed as a place to simulate and study divine forces. In ESO, Clockwork City, Vile is one of three princes, alongside Mephala and Nocturnal, who attempt to usurp the city's heart, the transparent law. While this occurs long after Sothasill's presumed death, it speaks to Vile's long-game interest in rival powers that sought to rival or surpass traditional godhood. It is believed by some scholars that Vile may have manipulated events leading to or following the fall of the Tribunal's influence, capitalizing on their weakening hold over Morrowind to reinstate Daedric cultism in the Fourth Era. The Subtle War of Faiths. While Azura waged open metaphysical war with the Tribunal, most notably in cursing the Chimer into Dunmer, Clavicus Vile's war was quieter, a campaign of temptation. Dunmeri records hint at waves of sudden heresies and sorcerous cabals, especially in times of political upheaval, all traced back to individuals who had made suspicious gains in influence or knowledge. The Masque of Clavicus Vile itself was once rumored to have surfaced near the Velothi Mountains during the waning years of Almalexia's reign. Whether coincidence or intervention, its appearance catalyzed internal schisms among House Indoril. Conclusion. Though the Tribunal and Clavicus Vile never met blade to blade nor word to word in open record, the ideological battlefield between them was marked by conflict. One deified themselves through sacrificial theft of godhood. The other offered godlike temptation for the mere cost of a mortal soul. The Tribunal preached unity, modesty, and duty. Vile whispered of ambition, vanity, and power without burden. And so their conflict was not one of war, but of metaphysical opposition. As penned by the dissident priest Alvone Dren, the Tribunal raised us to worship what they had become, but Vile offered us what we wished to become. Chapter 10. Legacy in the Third and Fourth Era. The Daedra endure. From the Riemann dynasty to the rise of the Dragonborn, Clavicus Vile has remained an enduring presence in mortal affairs. Despite anti-Daedric sentiment during the Septim Empire and the dissolution of the Mages Guild, Vile's cults persist. His popularity endures because mortals always dream of shortcuts, power, and beauty. Ultimately, Vile reflects the flaws of those who seek him. He is not evil in the conventional sense, but he is dangerous, for he gives mortals the means to destroy themselves. Let those who deal with the masked god beware. His smile is not for you, but for the bargain itself. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something new about the massive lore of the Elder Scrolls. If you made it this far, leave a comment for any future lore dives.